Hello, I'm Dana Hart. My specialty is neurogenetics with an emphasis on the neurotransmitter oxytocin. Today's lecture is going to combine a few scientific articles that I've already gone over and explain some things about how people with the empathy gene are affected by this trait out in the world. The scientific articles discussed in the last three videos show some of the evidence we have about the empathy gene's influence on personality. The three traits I will be focusing on are the increases in trust, forgiveness, and gratitude. While these may seem like positive traits to have, there are times that these traits lead to toxic relationships for people with the empathy gene. In most places worldwide, the population consists of people who have normally functioning oxytocin systems, along with others who have genetic mutations that can damage this system, leading to conditions like narcissistic personality disorder and autism. Because genes like RS53576 are fairly unknown to people who aren't studying in the field of neurogenetics, people often think of others in the population as similar to them. Recently, advances in diagnostics of autism have been of some help because recognizing that some people have neurodivergences can allow people to understand the fact that human brains can function differently at a biological level. For people who are what's now called neurotypical, it is easy to assume that others are also functioning in the same way they are. When people show mild symptoms of autism, a neurotypical person may look at the differences as a result of the environment that the autistic person was raised in, instead of understanding that neurodivergences are almost completely genetic in nature. With the very slight one gene difference, like RS53576, the personality effects can be so subtle that they're often very hard to detect at first. Now that more is known about neurogenetics, the symptoms of disorders like narcissism can be easier to understand as stemming from this slight genetic difference and not something intentional or coming from a lack of good parenting or other environmental issues. The three traits that empaths seem to have more frequently in my last three citations can also make them vulnerable to entering and maintaining relationships with others who eventually act abusive towards them. People who have the empathy gene tend to overestimate the ability of others because they like to think of others as being equals and don't want to seem judgmental towards them. Forgiveness, while valuable as a trait when dealing with other empaths, can become a toxic trait when obvious signs of neurodivergence are seen as something accidental that should be simply forgiven. This not only welcomes chaos into the empath's life, it does not show respect towards the capacity of the neurodivergent person, who, in the empath's eyes, should get better in the future if they are just forgiven for their symptoms. The second trait that empaths have, more so than others, is gratitude. This trait can contribute to a relationship dynamic called codependence, when the empath expects very little from a relationship and consistently acts thankful for even the smallest amounts of respect or normalcy. Without healthy relationship role models, an empath might not realize just how toxic another person is being towards them and continue acting grateful instead of having more healthy expectations. The third trait that can get people with the empathy gene in trouble is their increased trust. Without the knowledge that a large portion of the population around them are afflicted by this mutation, people with the empathy gene may blindly trust too many people too quickly. Combined with the tendency to forgive more easily, a person with the empathy gene may tend to get taken advantage of far more frequently and seem more naive than others. With your knowledge of this personality type, having a fully functional oxytocin system bestows on you, you can now begin to protect yourself from offensive people who may abuse you emotionally, financially, and even physically. Many people throughout the world have different personality types, and these are unchangeable, sometimes genetic differences you can merely learn about and accept. Sometimes the best way of accepting this is to choose not to have any contact with people so obviously different from you. Remember, the oxytocin receptor gene difference is only one gene in a huge catalog of genes that affect every neurotransmitter system. As a person who is naturally more trusting and forgiving, you need to enter every new relationship with the readiness to stand up for yourself and not easily be manipulated or disrespected. Some of the online counselors who offer videos about c-ptsd and techniques for dealing with narcissists have some good advice on what to do if you are stuck in situations where you're forced to deal with high conflict personalities. The strongest strategy is to go no contact when available and simply not interact with people on the cluster B's personality spectrum. When no contact is not possible due to situations like a boss being the high conflict person, a strategy called gray rock can be used. With the gray rock strategy, you may make yourself unappealing to the person so then they won't be tempted to involve you in their drama. Finally, if you are an empath or highly sensitive person, the main thing to keep in mind is that you do not have to be an expert on people who aren't. You have no obligation to continue relationships with people who make you feel bad, even if they are related to you. Watching many videos describing the cluster B personality disorders may feel satisfying at first if many of your suspicions are being backed up, but eventually the abuse that occurs in these relationships just wears you down, and rehashing the experience doesn't provide any relief. Once you're ready to move on past a bad relationship, you will find that other sources of oxytocin help you feel better without needing to return to a certain person. In some of my upcoming videos, I will explain how to raise your personal levels of oxytocin without depending on other people. Many activities have been found to boost your levels of this hormone and reduce stress that you can do on your own or with trusted friends. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments and I will do my best to answer them. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you, and please watch for more videos in the future. Goodbye.